Okay, you are officially inspired, you have your tickets booked, your accommodations set, all of your travel logistics are sorted, your money's in your bank account, your credit cards and your debit cards are set up, you have everything you need from passports and visas and vaccinations. Now you arrive to that new location for your first moments of your trip, and let me tell you, they can be very overwhelming. It's an exciting time leading up to that trip, right? Getting everything planned, your packing list, all of the details, saying goodbye to friends and family, but then it's you. Each time has been very emotional and a little bit less the more I've done it, just based on experience. I know the feeling in my body and I know what I'm getting myself into. But when you arrive at that first location, completely alone, you can definitely fall into a deep state of questioning your actions. And in Module 4, we're going to talk about the things that you need to learn when you're actually in the place. And in this video in particular, we're going to talk about one of the most popular subjects, and that is how to meet people when you're traveling. And I'll take you all the way back to that first lonely night in 2009, sitting on my hostel bed thinking, oh man, I made a big mistake. And you're wondering how you're going to interact with people. You're feeling very alone. I went out to dinner by myself and barely could get through the menu and speak to the waiter because I didn't have knowledge of the language. And I felt like it was never going to get better. But piece by piece, brick by brick, if you state your intentions and you keep pushing forward, you will create something that will blow your mind. And for everyone watching this, you're already at an advantage to what I went through, because you're taking this course. Something that I never did. I never read any of the books or looked online. There wasn't very many YouTube videos at that point, so you're already at an advantage. But the truth is, there is nothing that will prepare you for being in a new place all by yourself for the first time, an unknown location. The excitement that comes with it, the anxiousness, the fear of the unknown. These are all reasonable emotions. It's one of the best feelings in the world. And to break this down, we'll go through the 9 steps that I take to interact with locals, make new friends, and maximize my time while traveling. And we'll start all the way back at the beginning at that first trip, the first night in that hostel, and that is number 1. The hostel experience is the single greatest way for you to meet people while traveling. Travelers are going to be staying there. They're going to be open. They want to know about other places that you've been to. They want to learn from your experiences and share experiences of their own. And for me in particular, on that first trip, I knew I was going to be in Buenos Aires for a longer period of time. So I actually befriended the receptionist at the hostel. And she helped me with literally everything I needed for the first few days of the trip. I got a cell phone. I got signed up to Spanish classes. She even helped me order food when I needed it. And the biggest thing is she helped me find roommates. Basically, she would send out messages in Spanish to other people on Craigslist saying, I have a guy here, he's from the US, he wants to live with Spanish-speaking people, is anybody interested? And that leads us directly into number 2, the second phase of meeting people while traveling, and that is getting local roommates. I actually lived with 2 Colombians who have been in Buenos Aires for a long period of time when I moved there, and they opened up the entire community for me. My entire first year experience in Argentina was a direct result of them being my roommates. And perhaps Tourist Italian is alive today because of that experience, because of having them to lean on, meeting these great individuals, and being able to learn about a place through local perspective. And they were Colombian, but they had been in Buenos Aires for many, many years. So they had Argentine friends and Colombian friends. And on top of all the things they did for me in Argentina, they were actually the reason why I moved to Colombia for my second year of traveling deeper. So I owe everything to them. And if you go through this video only writing down just one of these tips, let it be this one. Get a local roommate. And this even comes with Airbnb. Airbnb, you can just rent rooms out now, but that local connection, being in someone's home and having them help you is an incredible advantage for you while you're traveling. And a third tip for meeting people while you're traveling is to leverage and take advantage of your hobbies. Now, I went from being alone in that hostel bed to meeting the receptionist and then her helping me get local roommates. And then from those local roommates, I met people who played basketball. And with this, I got a incredible community of people, great group of guys that I played basketball with every single Saturday, pretty much for the entire year that I was there. And in almost every single country I've been in since then, I have found a basketball community that I can connect with. Even if I don't speak the language, connecting through my life's passion of basketball has been an incredible way for me to connect with people and to develop relationships within a foreign community. I highly recommend leveraging whatever hobbies you may have, any activity that you can find to connect with people, even if you don't speak the language, is highly recommended. And the fourth tip that I have is finding a local job. And this can come in many different forms. For me, those first 3 tips I gave you, from the hostel to the roommates to basketball, within a basketball community, I had one of my best friends offer me a job at his brother's microbrewery. So I became a bartender within the first 3 months of living in Buenos Aires, which was very interesting because I didn't speak the language yet. So I actually walked in for an interview with the brother and the father and said, I'm here to bartend, and we had a very awkward conversation of Spanglish. And really, I was given the job because of the friends that I had made through basketball. And this opened up an entirely new community to me. Another great group of friends that I could lean on and I could talk with. Even if my Spanish wasn't good, we'd go out. They would make fun of me because I didn't understand everything. It made me feel a deeper connection to the place. And I felt like I was really traveling deeper and I was a part of something that was absolutely foreign to me. So get a local job however you can. And the 5th tip along the same lines as finding a local job is volunteer programs. And you can pretty much volunteer anywhere in the world, and this is a great way to meet people through a built-in community. I have volunteered in Guatemala for 6 months and met some of my best friends while living there through the program that I volunteered through Kiva. And also I lived in Bolivia and helped build libraries through a company called BiblioWorks and met some of my best friends while living in Bolivia. So this is a great way, a built-in community that you can go offer your services, offer your time to, and in return, build a great community of people who know a country, who know a place a lot better than you. And without much strain as far as going out and actually trying to make conversations and trying to make friends or relationships. This is a cheat code to meeting people. You join a volunteer program and you're in. And the 6th tip is an interesting one, getting away from these built-in communities like finding a job and volunteering, and that is getting yourself a good wingman or wingwoman. Now, this sounds interesting, but the truth is, when you're traveling abroad by yourself, it can be very difficult to go out and meet people, especially if you're not super extrovert. And that's completely okay. You don't have to be incredibly extroverted in order to meet people. But for me in particular, I made a promise to myself on these first few trips while I was trying to learn the language, and I'll talk about that in the next video. But I didn't want to go to any expat bars or restaurants. I didn't want to go to places where people were speaking English, and this made it a lot more difficult to make friends, and that's what I wanted. I wanted only Spanish-speaking friends. I wanted to be in Spanish-speaking scenarios, and that can be very overwhelming. So what I did was I had one English-speaking American native friend that I would go out with, that I would do things with on occasion in order to, one, release my stress a little bit, this constant tension of trying to learn the language, connect with someone who knows and understands and is going through similar difficulties with being in a foreign place. And we were also able to go out together. And that lightens up your strain of maybe going out by yourself, which I don't recommend for safety reasons and also from meeting people. So find a good wingman or wingwoman when you first start out to relieve some of the pressure and to help you get into these places. One thing I would not recommend, however, is going out in large groups of foreigners. If you're trying to immerse yourself in a foreign culture, this can be intimidating and annoying to locals. And if you're really trying to be a part of a local community, then showing up with 20 people that are all speaking English isn't the most inviting way to do that. So if everyone from the hostel is going to a specific bar, maybe take a few people and go somewhere else. To fly a little bit under the radar, make yourself more approachable, and thus you will meet people easier on a local level. And the 7th tip for making friends while you're traveling may be a little counterintuitive to what you may think I would suggest, and that is to take a tour. If you're staying in a place for an extended period of time, these guides can be an incredible resource and also become great friends. One of my best friends in Argentina was a man named Fernando, and we met through polo lessons and ended up becoming great friends as a result. We went to different polo matches and just went out and rode horses from time to time. He was a great resource for me and a great friend to this day. So if you ever have the opportunity, take a tour, especially if you're just starting out in a place. Not only will you meet people within the group that's also taking the tour, but the guides as well can be a great resource and great friends when you're in a new place. And my 8th tip is the most straightforward and easiest of them all, and that is to embrace social media and online communities. There are so many different networks that you can join. The simplest Facebook groups, couch surfing, internations. There's so many different online resources now for you to connect with people on the ground in foreign places. It is absurd. There's so many more resources than I had, and still I had plenty. And one of the simple things that I do nowadays is on Instagram. I look by tag, by location, and I see who's there. If there's other travel people there, other bloggers, other YouTubers, I go and I send them a message. Hey, I'm going to be in Germany on this dates and I'd love to meet up for a coffee, or you want to go grab a beer when I'm in Berlin. And so many people don't take advantage of how easy it is to connect with people when they're traveling. So keep that in mind and remember, it's as easy as you want it to be. If you put in a little effort, if you put yourself out there, you will have no problem meeting new people. All right, my 9th and final tip for you guys for making friends while you're traveling is to date a local. And this can be easier said than done, but I want to tell you, just like I said before, by putting yourself out there, by being whoever you want to be when you're in a foreign place, remember, if worst case scenario, they'll never see you again in your life. So you gotta go in knowing you really have nothing to lose. And that's with making friends or with dating when you're in a foreign place. You can always go back home. You can always go back to your regular life. So I would suggest you try to be a little bit more forward. You try to push the envelope, put yourself out there a little bit more, because you can always go back home. Now, in terms of dating, I'll give you my little backstory of my first foreign girlfriend while traveling was in Buenos Aires, Argentina. A friend of my roommate worked on the show Latin American Idol. And so she asked me one day, would you like to go to a taping? And I thought, that sounds wonderful. So I rolled up, and I was the only 25-year-old man sitting in an audience with a bunch of teenage screaming girls. And I watched this entire show. It was actually the finals, so there was 4 guys and 4 girls left. And I kept seeing somebody run by in front of me. She had a headset on. She seemed very serious. And she was looking up at me. I would be looking down at her. I just thought she was looking at me because I was the oldest guy in the sea of this screaming girls. And after the show, I asked my friend about her, and apparently she had asked my friend about me, and we ended up going out all in a group together a couple of times. At this point, my Spanish still wasn't very good, and she spoke no English, so we had a very interesting first part of our relationship where we'd go out to dinner, and I would just say, do you like library? And she would say, yes, I also like blue. In our very beat up Spanish and English mix. So long story short, we ended up dating for pretty much the entire year that I was in Argentina, and it became one of the greatest relationships that I've had. She helped introduce me all around town. We went to different places that I never would have discovered without her, and she introduced me to her friends, and I became part of yet another community. So to bring it back to a level of advice, I would recommend putting yourself out there in every community possible, making friends first, because no matter where you are in the world, in order to date someone, in my opinion, the best way to introduce yourself to them and them to you is through mutual friends. So if you make friends first, I believe love will come next. If you make friends, they will introduce you to perhaps a loved one. You can meet people in so many different ways. You can go out to bars, grocery stores, and nowadays, just like I said with the last tip, meeting people online is a great way to cut down that barrier of entry and be able to freely introduce yourself and to have conversations and to get to know somebody before that awkward first date, especially if you don't fluently speak the language. So just remember, while finding a date while traveling may be the same as it is while at home, the cultural dynamics around dating vary greatly depending on where you are in the world. And with that being said, those are my 9 tips for how to make friends and lovers while traveling around the world. I hope this is helpful. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how to deepen this connection of meeting people while traveling through learning the language and my best tips for learning a new language while you're traveling. All right, let's keep going.